This series of author interviews is brought to you by Leisure Press and the Book Reality Experience, turning writers' dreams into book realities.
Hi everybody, and welcome again to Book Realities, our series of interviews with authors. And today we're joined by Lee Gaitan, who has contributed to an anthology for Book Reality. Hiya, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? It's early for you, right?
It's very early for me over here in
My day is
Australia.
done, baby. I'm kicking back and putting my feet up. I'm so sorry.
So whereabouts is your world happening
I
for you?
am, yeah, right now I am in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US. And that's, well, people are so funny. I am not from this area of the country originally, but I have probably lived here longer than anywhere else, but it is not home. And I have told my husband in no express terms, when I die, do not leave me here. You take me home. It's like, you're not going to know. Oh, I'll know. I will know. I
So
will
where
know.
where was where would you call home? Where would you call home?
Home, where I grew up was in Pennsylvania in the U.S. Although I must tell you something important to me. People laugh about Americans when they say, I'm Irish, I'm German, I'm Italian. They're like, no, you're not. You're American. But the heritage is very important here. And all four of my grandparents were immigrants from Italy. So I have a very pure bloodline. And you can even check. And so you could breed me. Okay. You could breed me. And in fact, I have been bred, but I sort of sullied that bloodline. I am second generation. My parents were first generation. And I grew up in a small town in southwestern Pennsylvania. If you know, at all for orientation, Philadelphia is the big city on the east side, and Pittsburgh is the big city on the west side. And I grew up about an hour from there in a small town.
Fantastic. So you're married, you've got kids and grandchildren, you living down in Georgia. I can see behind you an air conditioning unit. I have heard from people in Georgia that it can get kind of sticky and steamy.
This was the crappiest summer in the history of crappy summers. It was horrible. It did nothing but rain and sun. It was rain, sun, rain, sun, steam, steam. I did not My hair was so frightening. I mean, I have very large hair and it grows. And I teach during the day, and I would start out in class in the morning, my hair like this. By 10:30, it's a little, by 12 o'clock, I have to turn sideways to get out of my classroom door. So we have central air, but this room gets the afternoon sun. And here in the summer, it is brutal. Well, you know about brutal heat too. But I have a heater right here, a little space heater, and an air conditioner, auxiliary air conditioner over there, because now the weather has changed like that and it's really chilly. So I have either the heat in the morning and the AC in the afternoon. There's just no pleasing me, Ian, is what it comes down to.
You said there that you were a teacher during the day, so
Yeah.
you're a full-time teacher of English as a second language?
Yes, sir.
Wait,
I teach at a small college, only about 5 miles from my house, which is wonderful. So I can sleep up to the very last minute and then roll in. And I teach English as a second language to adults, to adult learners, anyone from 20 to, I've had someone as old as 81 in my class. Anyone younger than that. You cannot come here if you are still in high school in the US, even if you say you've just moved to the US from somewhere else, like Australia, and you have to learn real English. And
oh, oh, that's
oh,
harsh.
I know we corrupted it. I know. But but a lot of times I will have younger teenagers because maybe they've come here to visit a relative or a friend for 3 months, and they want to practice English, or American. And so I will have, I've had some kids like 16. I had one kid 15 years old. and a grandpa 81. So, but I would say generally it's 20 to 40, sort of that range.
Very good. So, if that's your full time job, how
Hmm.
did you get into writing? Was writing something that you've wanted to do since you were a little girl, or?
Yeah. Actually, the little girl that was on the stone tablets because I've just had a birthday. So back then when I was a little girl, we were writing on the stone tablets, and it was so much longer then, and doing cursive on the stone tablets. Actually, it's the other way around. I was a writer, a public relations writer, a news writer, advertising, marketing, radio, TV. And I would always sort of teach on the side and or on the front, in the front, on the back, whatever. And then but I did always want to write a book. I was always writing for someone else in someone else's voice because that's what paid. My voice did not pay that much. Um, and so actually my first book was published way back in that other century. I don't know if you're familiar with the 20th century. That was the one I really liked. Okay. And then I had a really huge life disaster. Let's just say that. In the space of 1 year, my father died. My mother fell into a coma, and we didn't know if she would recover. And on Christmas Eve, couple day or two before Christmas Eve, my husband at the time of 22 years announced to me very casually, rather unceremoniously, that he had in fact invested secretly in a business that I didn't know anything about, had quit his job, and had lost every single penny of our savings, checking. Oh, please, checking. That was nothing. Investment, retirement. He had liquidated everything while I was taking care of my very ill and or dying parents. And to top it off, he was also leaving me. And he was moving across the country, across the US, the other end of the country, to live with an old girlfriend who just happened to be a former stripper with 5 children. Merry Christmas to you.
Oh my God.
Oh, and P.S., don't say anything. This was my favorite part of it. He said, don't say anything to anyone until January because, I don't want to ruin anyone else's holidays. So apparently I didn't even qualify as anyone else at that point. And here's how much of a surprise it was, Ian. And there's a point to this story because a lot of my writing grows out of this kind of situation. I, being totally ignorant of this new disaster that was about to hit me in the face, was trying to decorate for Christmas and everything. This is the first Christmas without my dad. We don't know what's going to happen with my mom. My daughter is coming home from her first year at college or university, as you guys say. And so I was trying to not be sad and everything. And at the last minute, I realized that I had never finished putting all the decorations on the tree because I had run out of the hooks to put the ornaments on. And I walked into the living room and I said, hey, and he looked at me and he said, yeah, hey, I'm leaving. And I said, oh, great. Are you going to Walmart? I don't know if you know what like a discount store. Okay. I said, oh, great. Are you going to Walmart? Because we need, more hooks. And no, Lee, not Walmart. Target. No, no, not Target. And then he spills out, I'm leaving you. And da, 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 da. The first thing I said was, so like you're not getting the hooks or you are getting the hooks? So will you drop back with the hooks? So that was right after my first book had been published, and I had the book proposal for the second book, and I had an agent and everything because this was back in the old days when there was no self-publishing or there was really no internet to speak of or anything. And I had a regular publishing contract. Anyhow, destitution was on my doorstep, and I didn't have time to write a book and hope for fun and profit. because everything was gone. And he had left me with about $100,000 of debt in my own name. And so, yeah, writing was not an issue. I needed to start teaching full time and have insurance, and full time was nothing. I worked no fewer than 5 jobs for a couple of years, and then I worked 3 for 10 years, and I paid off everything and met a wonderful new man, and finally got to write that second book 10 years after the first one. But it was about everything that I went through and how to kind of survive a crisis that you didn't see, and also where to get good hooks for your Christmas tree ornament.
If
So
that
that's the story.
if that is ever a title for a book, it's that. It's where to get good hooks for your Christmas
There
tree.
you go. Well, my title was My Pineapples Went to Houston, is the title. And the subtitle is, I have to think, Finding the Humor in My Dashed Hopes, Broken Dreams, and Plans Gone Outrageously Awry.
So that book's still available online, isn't it? It's still available to
Absolutely. And in
purchase.
fact, the first one was an Amazon bestseller, and the second edition, which has new material added to it, sort of an update, is also available on Amazon. And the title of that came from, I was talking to a man one time, and he was telling me this long, involved story, how he was trying to send a crate of fresh pineapples back to the States from Guatemala, and his wife her plane went to Miami, and his plane was sent to Atlanta, and and he goes, it was just horrible. It was the worst logistical nightmare, kind of typical thing that happens with airlines and weather and things sometimes. And his last line was, and my pineapples, well, my pineapples went to Houston. And he did not live in Houston. So, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is so perfect. We plan and plan and plan, and sometimes pineapples go to freaking Houston. What can I tell you?
So when you came to write for us, because
Mhm.
it's an interesting how we actually connected. So
Yeah.
Rika Keenan lives in
Yes.
Florida,
Love her.
and Rika had written a book, Petals. It was a memoir, and
Yes, it
she
was so
sent that.
wonderful.
It's a beautiful book, and
Oh
she
my
sent
gosh,
it
she
to
is
us
such a
to
beautiful
assist.
writer. Oh, yeah.
So we got Rika's book, and we'd helped her
Uh-huh.
independently publish that book in
Yeah.
Florida. But Rika had a couple of other ideas, and one of her ideas had been for an anthology of women stories by women writers, but focused on the act of forgiveness.
Mhm.
And I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
And I said, but where are we going to find 21 women? And Rika said, oh, I can get you quite a few. So all of a sudden, I had all of these submissions coming in from women all over the world. So we've got Australian writers, New Zealand writers, we've got British and Northern Irish and Irish writers, and then we've got Americans from East Coast to West Coast, from North
Yeah.
to South. Your particular story, and you've covered a lot of the angst that has happened, but your
Mhm.
story focused on a different aspect of it. So do you want to talk us through the story that you wrote
Yeah,
for
that was a
forgiveness?
different, because I classify myself, I'm pretty much classified as a humor writer, or at least finding the humor in really difficult situations, because that is really my superpower. I think that's the only thing sometimes I have at my disposal to get through something. But Rika had contacted me, and she didn't really tell me too much about it, um, but to write about forgiveness. And this particular situation, that was probably the hardest situation that I faced, where the idea of forgiveness was so complex and complicated and layered, and just so many strings to pull out of that ball, because I'm a very forgiving person. I think probably like a lot of people, or a lot of women, not of myself, of course, but of other people. Semi big things, or I'm certainly not a grudge holder. And it's gotten much easier as I've gotten older, because my memory's gotten really bad. So Oh, you're the guy that set my house on fire. Oh, okay, come on in. If you don't remember what they did. No, I'm not a grudge holder. I just, it just takes too much energy and to think about. I don't really like to nurse. I do with myself, with things I've done wrong, I go over and over and over it. I'm a bad ruminator, but not with other people. But this particular situation was just so complicated. And so the betrayal was so huge because it was on every level. And it wasn't even that my ex-husband wanted a divorce. It wasn't even that. It was that this affair had been going on behind my back all this time while my parents were dying and he wasn't there for me. Okay, I can kind of even get over that because I knew his backstory and it was a very complicated, complex one. There had been some, fairly severe trauma in his background. So if I were not on the receiving end of this, I could get it. I could see where his emotional train was going to go off the rails. But as an adult, it was really hard for me to say, yeah, but you still have to act responsibly. You still have to treat other people fairly. And it was the fact that he just gutted every aspect of my life and didn't say, hey, I have really made a mess of things, but I'll stay to try to help clean up as much as I can. And then, or we can get divorced, but I'm going to try to live up to the obligations I have to you and our daughter. But no, I mean, cut and run. And then the part that really I was even okay with all of that. I was still speaking with him, trying to help him. It's the lack of acknowledgement that this even happened. And I think that's when the rubber really meets the road with this forgiveness business, when it has to be something you do with yourself. Many people, anyhow, I did not want restitution, although a check would have been nice. I wouldn't have turned that down. Gift cards, but I didn't want to berate anyone or belabor it. And you did it, and I can't. No, I just wanted him to say, wow, I am so sorry. I don't want to rehash it. I've lost my mind. I've lost my way. I'm really struggling, but I am so sorry that I did this to you and you didn't deserve it. You deserved better. You weren't perfect, but you deserved better than this. The end. I never got even that. All I got was, hey, get over it.
So that story that you gave to us, it was entitled Seeking Authentic Forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Was it difficult to write and put those words down on paper,
Yeah,
knowing that other people were going to read them? And once it's in
exactly.
the book, it's there.
It's really, exposing yourself. And in anything I write, I don't mind exposing myself emotionally. Trust me, I'm 65. You don't want any other kind of Southern exposure, okay? But I'm always careful how much I share about other people. So I like to stick to the facts. This is what happened, but I don't really want to share things about them that it's not my story to tell. But Ian, that story I couldn't really write about the two of us coming together and mutual forgiveness, or we worked this out and we parted as friends or anything. But I can't even explain to you, I could not live with it. It felt like a ton of weight on my chest, and anger and hurt and betrayal, brokenness. And I felt like I didn't know what to do with it. And I felt like, okay, you're supposed to forgive, but I don't want to forgive. So and it all I started thinking about early childhood years, Catholicism, and we're talking about going to confession. And I never really had this feeling of any kind of lightness of being when I came out of a third grader saying, oh, I coveted my sister's, I don't know, candy or something. But, that didn't really work for me. And the theology behind that, as an adult, I didn't go with that. But I had taken a class some years ago at a Presbyterian seminary here, and it was called "Is Human Forgiveness Possible?" At that time, it was all abstract to me, and this model that he set up, and it really spoke to me on sort of an intellectual level. Well, here was my chance to really do it. So the only way I could come to peace, and I think there's a difference too between being at peace with yourself and what happened, and actually this forgiving someone. Because I do think some things, I don't know, I think you cannot be bitter and not harbor anger and not wish ill will, and you move and you're fine and it happened and it's okay. But I don't know, is that forgiveness? I don't know. I think that in some situations, that's as good as you can hope for. Because I went through something very difficult, but my gosh, people go through much worse. People have family members killed or murdered, or, all kinds of things. So I can't even imagine, to put myself in that same company. Absolutely not. But this was a lot for me in my world. This was a lot.
I think the thing that fascinated me about those stories were there were 21 women's stories,
Uh-huh.
and we have the first ever English-born woman Buddhist nun
Yeah.
contributed, and obviously Pimadeka and Lindsay Porter, who both collaborated together.
Yeah.
Pema comes from such a spiritual grounding and background, and I could listen to her words all day. Um, but even she said that sometimes forgiveness isn't always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's something to strive for. One of the other women had actually written a story that said, "No, I'm not forgiving them, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot
Okay.
forgive
Yeah.
anybody." All the way through to someone who had said, "Yes, I forgive them completely and move forward," and it was all shades of light.
I was in the spectrum.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
It was very
Yeah.
fascinating, but from a male perspective, reading some of the stories, I was so angry at some of my genders.
I was going to say, did you quit the male species after that?
It was, I mean, for a kick-off, it was very brave of some of the women to send in what they sent in as pieces for the
Mm-hmm.
book. Um, but yeah, it was confronting when you read some of these things and go, how, yeah,
How?
how,
How? Good
yeah.
for you. How? But I'm sure that you could do an anthology of men, and there would be, very, very hurtful stories. But yeah, and when you hear from anyone, I just kept saying how, and especially when it's someone it's just, but how, but you know, you know better than this. You know what it's, and I understand, people in crisis do things that you would never imagine, and they would never imagine themselves doing. And we all, you just don't even know how you might respond in some kind of situation. And that's a big part of that forgiveness model that John Patton talks about, that authentic forgiveness, as opposed to the ritual, the just saying the word, oh yeah, I'm sorry, oh yeah, okay, I forgive you. But there's no real, substance to that. But I think part of it is when you really do see the other person as yourself, when you can see yourself in that place, or at least some degree, or imagine it. Maybe you've been that person at another time, or you could see why they are doing that. That sort of softens you a little bit. And again, I mean, it's really nice when both sides can participate in this, and there'll be enough screaming and yelling and crying and finger pointing to, that's going to be part of it. But then in the end, to come to some kind of mutual, that we're never going to see each other again, but we're good with this, or maybe it's a friendship and you're able to get over that, or a relation, any kind of relationship. But when you have to do that on your own, which is kind of where I was, I think I had to forgive myself because at some level there was still this sense of I should have fixed it. That's a very female thing, I think, and certainly a very Catholic thing if you were raised Catholic as a child. um, uh, you know, I should have fixed this. I should have been able to make this okay. This shouldn't have happened, or I deserved a bad thing to happen to me because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't this enough. I wasn't that enough. And that's crap. That's not true. But you have to, I don't know, something really broke in me the night that I wrote about in there. And I don't know, spiritually, I have a myriad of beliefs. So is it something that came from within, from without? I'm just going to call it grace, from the universe, from God, from wherever. I don't know. I had like this release. It was very emotional. And I was like, it's okay. It's okay.
The story was superb. When you come to write stories, do you have a set place? Do you have to have a set routine? Do you get up at 6 a.m. and work until 10? How do you write?
There is a 6 a.m.? I'm sorry. I was not aware of that. How about that? You crazy Australians, you have AMs. Yes, it's a little early. I have only one thing. I have to sit at my computer. I don't know. I even have a laptop and I can go I don't know. It's like it doesn't work. But of course, my routine is very much like every other writer's routine that I know, or at least the undisciplined ones like me. The second I sit down to write, oh, I have to file my nails. I just remembered I have an urgent need to do that. And oh, I need to go see if I have any stray eyebrow hairs that need to be. I sit down and get up about 10 times, unless there's something I really like that's just been percolating and percolating. Yeah, a boy, and being able to click and just go right to the internet from your word page is really dangerous these days. Yeah.
So do you plan your stories? Have you got
Um, I
lots of
do make
post-it
notes.
notes?
Yeah, I do. I have about 4 things in my head right now that I have jotted down. And really, I write humorous essays and, nonfiction. I have a very narrow range of skills. And so I write a lot from absurd and crazy things that happen in life, or making light of things to get through them, or that, it could be something serious, or it could just be something totally nutty, like this crazy woman who was driving backwards through the McDonald's parking lot. Seriously? I have to live in this world with these people? So, and now that I have grandchildren, as you mentioned, oh my gosh, they just gave me 3 great stories. I have 2 little that live here in the States. I have 2 little granddaughters, and I have a granddaughter in Colombia, and one that is right now they were transferred to Doha, Qatar, a little boy. So they've given me tons of material. So it's just, I'm a very good observer, and I think that I have, maybe if I have any kind of, unique kind of take, it's the ability to put dissimilar things together, because that's where humor happens. To put very dissimilar things together and find a similarity or find a common ground, like a Venn diagram. And it's funny, where the expected meets the unexpected, that's where humor happens. And when people are laughing, a friend told me when they're laughing, their mouth is open so you can put the medicine in. You can deliver the point of your story. And sometimes there's a point, and sometimes there isn't.
Now, you said there that you've had 2 books that you were a writer, and then you had the career break from being a
Yeah.
full-time writer. Did you study writing at college? Was that?
I really didn't. I mean, I did and I didn't, not exclusive. My major in college was rhetoric and communication. So there was a lot of speech writing, a lot of speaking, but not like a journalism major, or not like a writing major. So, but my first job, other than babysitting, um, was at a news station, a news radio station. I had to start writing news stories the very first day. It was supposed to be a summer internship, and they hired me on the second day because somebody quit. And so I started that professionally, and from that went to public relations writing, and from that went to script writing and hosting and producing TV talk shows, and a lot of PR writing for healthcare and education. But I think the first thing I wrote poetry, very bad confessional poetry, but little kid poetry. I won a lot of awards for that. And I think the first thing I wrote was like fourth grade. I wrote a newspaper for my family. And even that was kind of snarky because I think my whole family needs hearing aids because no one listens to me. I was writing an advice column. I was the youngest. Okay. So nobody paid any attention to what I said. So I was always writing for fun and amusement. But I didn't write a book until I was 40.
You said there that you got awards for your writing, and you're widely published. Your articles have been
Yeah.
published in all manner of journals and
Yeah.
newspapers, etc. What's the best feedback you've ever had for your writing?
Um, you know, I will get feedback from people, especially about this, because my very first book was pure humor because I didn't know my life was going to fall apart. What I thought were crises in that book, yeah, not really. Okay. It was about turning 40 and the accompanying falling of everything on your body and your mind, deterioration in general, because that's when I thought 40 was old. Oh, God, strike me dead. But anyway, that was just for fun. And so a lot of women, I really liked hearing them saying, "Oh my God, are you standing outside my window watching me? Because this is exactly what I'm feeling." So I feel so validated when it connects with someone, when they can relate, when they know they're not alone. And so the Pineapples book, both of them, that's been really rewarding in the sense that I get a lot of letters from not professionals, but readers that tell me their stories and they're the same or worse, and it made them feel so much better. And because when things like that happen to you, as I said, you feel like, I don't know, for me there was like a great deal of shame around. I was so embarrassed to tell anybody that this was happening to me, that I had $5 to last 3 weeks. I was going to work every day like everything was fine, and I just didn't. There were only a couple people that really knew the real nitty gritty, or even those that kind of knew. I would always be smiling, and laugh, but not really. Um, so it's really nice to have people say, "Oh my God, thank you. This is just how I felt." And this got. I had one woman write to me, and she said, after I read this, the next day I was able to get out of bed because I thought, well, okay, let's try. Let's try. She did it. It's that kind of stuff that's really important.
Isn't it amazing that when we can put words down on a page and reach into someone else's consciousness?
Yeah,
Stephen King, who's a god, obviously,
yeah, obviously, yes.
his book on writing that says it makes you a time traveler.
And that's really true. Yeah.
Because he had said that he was writing his book on writing,
Right.
which is a masterpiece. He's
Yes.
writing it on, and he puts the day and the time and where he's sitting. He's sitting in
Mhm.
his Maine's office in Maine, rather, at a day on a time in a year. And he said, "But you're reading this in the future. But
Yeah,
I've got an apple on my desk, and it, and he's time transported that where
exactly.
you are, and
Yeah.
yeah, for little scratchings on a page, it's quite remarkable.
Isn't it that someone said to me one time, "Why do you write?" And I said, as you can probably guess, I said, well, it's like silent talking. It's a way to keep talking. When the teacher says you're not allowed, okay, all right, fine. I'm not allowed to talk in here. I will write. I will show you. But it is stunning. It is stunning the effect that how can putting words in a certain order provoke strong emotion in some, how is that even possible? I mean, you have a dictionary sitting there with all these words, but you arrange them in one way and it means one thing to me and the same thing to someone on the other side of the world, or at another time. You read something that was written 100 years ago and you relate to the emotions that are being described. How is that possible? This is sorcery.
It is a good job that it's possible, though, because you and I we'd be quite limited for work otherwise. So it's good. Now, what's next for Lee Gaitan with regards to
Oh
writing?
boy, this is a really good question because you need to tell me. I'm trying to figure out what it's time to start a new book. And I don't know, I'm just not sure. Something that I thought about, because I have heard from so many people, that maybe something I could do before I write another kind of, story of my own, would be like an anthology of women, of people who have overcome, who've had their pineapples go to Houston and they bounce, or as I say, don't just bounce back. Because we're all going to take a bad bounce. Some of them are quite grand and some are quite mundane, but everybody, no matter how charmed your life looks, you're going to have a setback at some point. And you need to develop that resiliency. And everybody has different tools, to do that. So I think it's really helpful and interesting to see how some people have managed to overcome and didn't let things totally defeat them, that they did bounce back. So I have thought about that. And something I would love to do, but I need to study a lot. Maybe like fiction. I would like to be but I'm not like, I think of someone like Rika. It's like gold and silver just flows from her tongue, or she's like poetry. She could write the weather report and it would sound poetic to me. She's just so talented. And I'm not that kind of writer. So I don't know how that would work, but that would be an interesting challenge for me. But I think I would need to take classes and really, work on that craft, because I don't think it comes naturally to me.
So the anthology, would that see you as an editorial role? So it would be
Yeah, I
edited by
think that
Lee?
I would probably, do like an intro and maybe something of mine and kind of a thread through it and a conclusion. But I would really like the opportunity to give other people, a platform, a place for their voice if they don't have that outlet right now.
You see,
But they have
I
a story to tell.
I must
Yeah,
admit,
I'm
I
sorry.
just had an idea. Sorry, I just had an
Yeah,
idea spark into my head that,
I saw that. Yes.
yeah, I know it's that unusual look on my face when it's like, oh, um, you have people in your classrooms
Mm-hmm.
who are learning English as a second language who have come from all over the world.
Oh, mm-hmm.
They've got stories.
Oh, do they ever? That's a that is wonderful, because something that would tie in. Wow, that's the other side of this coin, because I have a lot of funny stories, of course, with misunderstandings in English and everything. I had a student, for example, what's the rating on this podcast?
Oh,
Is it
well,
PG-13?
we'll bleep you out if it's that bad.
All right. Well, I had a young woman, lovely young woman from Colombia, and my husband is actually from Colombia, but she was, I think, the first Colombian I ever met, and very, very bright woman, learning English and learning quickly. But she confused the words condo. We say condo here in the States. Do you guys say that for condominium? We
Yeah.
condo. She went one letter too far and was telling everyone she wanted a condom. And she did not want to buy a new condom because they were so expensive, that she would buy a used condom. And she's telling me this, and I'm going, oh. So there's that side of it. Then I had the student bake cookies or muffins or something for me, because we were learning cooking terms and we were pretending we were doing a cooking show and you have to talk to the audience in this. And she said, Would you like one of my muffins? I made them from scratching as opposed to scratch. They're so flaky.
Yeah,
But
eczema flavored muffins.
so I've thought about all the funny things that have happened, but that is a fabulous idea because let me tell you, some of these stories are beyond dramatic. My husband's own story is really quite dramatic.
Well, I was just
His
thinking it would be
I,
interesting to have two halves of the same anthology where you have, Frances from Colombia who struggled
uh-huh,
through XXX to get to the United
right.
States, and then her funny story about mispronouncing condominiums. You've
Ah,
got the
yeah,
you've got the story of how they get there, and then the bounce back, which is humorous. So you end up with two
exactly.
stories from one person, but it shows how everybody can come through that journey using their resilience and humor, etc.
You're really good at this. You should be an editor, maybe a publisher even. Oh, I'm not kidding, Ian. That's a fabulous idea. Okay, ask me again. What's my next project? Well,
So,
actually, Ian, I teach ESL to adults, and I was thinking it would be a really great idea to tell their stories, but then like they're because I do always ask them like, what's the worst mistake, and to make everyone feel better, I own up to all of mine in foreign languages. I was in Italy, and my family heritage is Italian, and I supposedly speak Italian, and I changed one vowel, one little vowel, kind of like Olga that went from condo. She went one letter too far. I changed one vowel. In English, the vowels are Who cares whether it was an A or an O, I ended up, instead of asking for my key, I was asking for sex in the most graphic way possible. And they're laughing, and I think they're laughing at my accent. And I'm saying in Italian, please give it to me now. I need it. Oh, yeah, I was digging myself in deeper and deeper until finally someone whispered in my ear what I was saying. And I said, yes, but first the key. First, I need the key. So, we all, if you've ever had to learn another language, as an adult, it is not easy. And English is a really stinky language to learn. We are horrible.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember we've got that tea towel, dish drying cloth
Yeah.
type of
Uh-huh.
idea where it's got the silly words and the silly poems, and it's
Uh-huh.
there, and there, and where, and
Exactly.
where. And you
Uh-huh.
look at it, I remembered looking at that as a child and thinking it would be almost impossible if you came in, if you didn't grow up with this language.
Exactly.
You'd want to punch people for coming up with the
Oh,
fact that
oh,
everything sounds the same but it's spelt differently. Or
so
even
different.
worse, the OUGH ending on words where it's all spelt the same but it completely changes. And then when you've just got to grasp with it and you put favourite and you spell it without an R, and people on the other side of the planet go, no, there's a U missing there. You should put a U in. Or in my case, my book that got a review that said, I enjoyed the story, but the amount of misspellings, the man couldn't even spell colour.
Because they were American.
They were American. And he'd
We
reviewed
don't
it.
need that you. We don't need that you,
No,
Ian.
he'd reviewed it and
Say
put
power.
CULOR, and I was desperate to go
Didn't you just want
online.
to scream?
Well, I
No,
wanted to go
you
online and
didn't.
reply to him going, no, 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 it's
No.
called English for a reason, my dear chap. But you
You
have to
people corrupted it.
you have to take the
Exactly.
rough with the smooth.
I
Lee,
did not.
thanks ever so much for your time in
Oh my
your
goodness, thank
evening
you
and
so
my
much.
morning.
Well, thank you for giving me my next book idea.
Oh well, that's okay. Now
Do I owe you anything?
we're going to end with. I'm looking to my right to make sure that I've got the questions here. We're going to
Oh
end
no.
with some quick fire questions if you're up for it.
Oh, I was hoping that we had. Okay, I have not studied. Okay, I do not study for personality tests nor vision tests.
No,
So
well, you couldn't have studied for this because I haven't
all right.
provided you the questions. Right.
All right, I'm ready.
So, author Lee Gaitan, what is your
Uh-huh.
favourite book?
Pride and Prejudice.
What is your least favourite book if you have one?
Fahrenheit 451. Not probably not, but I'll say it anyway.
What turns you creativity wise, what
Uh-huh.
turns you on?
Music,
What turns you off?
chocolate,
Oh, chocolate,
off,
yeah. Music with
chocolate
chocolate. Yeah. Okay.
turns me off. Rain. I hate
Well,
rain.
that's going to be an interesting for the next question. Summer or winter?
Summer. Don't you even say that W word around me.
On a completely free day to do anything you want to, who do you spend it with?
My husband.
Mountains or oceans?
Mountains that run to the sea.
Nice compromise.
I give that question to my students.
What is your favourite movie?
Oh, oh, Saturday Night Fever. I still love that movie. That's what came to my mind. I do still love that movie. I
One, so I'm not judging at all. I'm not
know.
judging.
No, not at all. No.
I thought you were going to really be cerebral and go,
I
oh,
know. I was trying to think of something smart, but
um, who makes you laugh the most?
my my daughter, like as a non-famous person, my daughter cracks, or my grandkids, they crack me up. Yeah.
One song to listen to for the rest of your life.
Wait for me.
Oh, who's that?
Wait for me. It's an old Hall and Oates song, and that song slays me every time.
Excellent. What smell do you love?
Cinnamon.
And what smell do you hate?
Yeah, I don't like strong perfume. I don't like strong perfume.
Other than a writer or indeed a teacher,
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
profession would you like to attempt?
Oh, I don't have the skill, but I wish I could be a singer.
Okay. And what profession would you not like to do?
A singer in front of people where they could actually hear me.
And if heaven exists, what would you like
Uh,
to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
oh, all your dogs are here for you, waiting for you. Yes,
That's so
yes, to
nice.
greet you.
Lee, thanks ever so much for taking the time out to chat about some fairly in-depth subjects, especially with regard
And Saturday Night Fever,
and
thank you.
Saturday Night Fever. We really do hope that, I mean, the Forgiveness anthology, I think, deserves a much wider audience than the one that it's got so far.
The messages are they're profound, really.
But it will
Yeah,
get there. So
yeah.
thanks ever so much. I look forward to your new book, Teaching English as a Second Language to My Students Bouncing Back, or What to Do When Your Pineapples Go to Houston.
Exactly. And with thanks to Ian Hooper.
My
There you
pleasure.
go.
You take care.
Thank you so much. It was a blast. Thanks.
Hi, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more readings and author interviews. And don't forget to hit that bell to get notified every time we post new content.